John D. Rockefeller Jr. was born into the shadow of a name so powerful it had already become a symbol. Long before he made a single decision of his own, the world associated the name Rockefeller with oil, monopoly, and unimaginable wealth. But John Davison Rockefeller Jr., born on January 29, 1874, would spend his entire life wrestling with a question his father never truly had to face. What responsibility comes with possessing more money than most nations? This is not the story of a tycoon who built an empire, but of a man who tried to redeem one and, in doing so, helped invent modern philanthropy. He grew up in an environment defined by discipline, restraint, and moral certainty. His father, John D. Rockefeller Sr., was already one of the richest men in the world, but the household was run with almost monastic seriousness. Waste was discouraged, extravagance frowned upon, and religious devotion was central to daily life. Young John was taught from an early age that wealth was not a reward, but a test, a burden placed upon the righteous to be managed wisely. Allowances were recorded meticulously, charitable donations tracked, and every dollar accounted for. This upbringing left him cautious, methodical, and deeply conscious of moral judgment. Unlike his father, who thrived on competition and control, Rockefeller Jr. was introverted and anxious by nature. He studied at Brown University, where he struggled socially and physically, suffering from nervous exhaustion. He was intelligent and diligent, but lacked the aggressive instincts that had driven Standard Oil to dominance. When he entered the family business in the late 1890s, it became immediately clear that he was not meant to be another Rockefeller Sr. Instead, he found himself caught between inherited power and personal discomfort with its consequences. That tension came to a head in 1914 with one of the most infamous labor conflicts in American history, the Ludlow Massacre. Rockefeller Jr. was a major shareholder in the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, whose striking coal miners demanded better wages, safer conditions, and union recognition. When violence erupted between miners and company-backed forces, resulting in the deaths of women and children, public outrage exploded. Newspapers across the country portrayed Rockefeller Jr. as a distant, heartless plutocrat hiding behind corporate walls while workers suffered. The crisis nearly broke him. He was summoned before congressional committees and faced harsh public condemnation. But instead of retreating, Rockefeller Jr. made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He traveled personally to Colorado, met with miners, listened to their grievances, and began rethinking the relationship between capital and labor. While critics argue his reforms were limited, the experience fundamentally changed him. He embraced the idea that corporations had social responsibilities beyond profit, and that wealth required moral engagement with the public. From that moment on, philanthropy became not a side project, but his central mission. Unlike his father, who donated vast sums quietly and often anonymously, Rockefeller Jr. believed in systematic, organized giving. He wanted philanthropy to be professional, strategic, and effective. He helped shape institutions that treated charitable work almost like a science, guided by research, planning, and long-term goals. One of his most significant contributions was to the Rockefeller Foundation, which became a global force in public health, education, and scientific research. Under his influence, the foundation funded efforts to combat diseases like hookworm, yellow fever, and malaria, particularly in impoverished regions. These programs saved millions of lives and helped establish modern public health infrastructure in countries that had none. For Rockefeller Jr., this was wealth serving humanity on a global scale. His vision extended beyond medicine. He believed culture, education, and the arts were essential to a functioning society. He played a decisive role in the development of major American institutions, including the expansion of the University of Chicago and support for countless educational initiatives.
but perhaps his most visible legacy stands in the heart of New York City. Rockefeller Center was not originally intended as a monument to wealth, but as a response to crisis. During the Great Depression, when unemployment was rampant and construction had stalled across the country, Rockefeller Jr. personally financed the massive complex after a planned partnership collapsed. The project employed tens of thousands of workers at a time when jobs were desperately scarce. It became a symbol of resilience, modernity, and optimism, not only for New York, but for the nation. Despite its grandeur, Rockefeller Jr. remained personally austere. He lived comfortably but without excess, avoided publicity when possible, and continued to struggle with anxiety throughout his life. He was deeply religious, believing that God had entrusted him with wealth for a purpose beyond personal enjoyment. His philanthropy was not impulsive generosity, but moral obligation. His commitment to historic preservation revealed another side of his character. He helped save colonial Williamsburg, transforming it into a living historical site that preserved early American architecture and identity. He also donated land that would become national parks, including Acadia National Park in Maine and the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. These gifts reflected his belief that nature and history belonged to the public, not private fortune. Rockefeller Jr.'s approach to philanthropy influenced generations. He championed the idea that charitable giving should aim to solve root causes rather than offer temporary relief. This philosophy shaped modern foundations, nonprofit governance, and the concept of effective philanthropy long before the term existed. In many ways, he helped professionalize generosity. Yet his legacy remains complex. He never fully escaped criticism tied to the origins of the Rockefeller fortune. For some, no amount of philanthropy could erase the monopolistic practices and labor exploitation associated with Standard Oil. Rockefeller Jr. himself seemed to understand this tension. He did not seek forgiveness through grand gestures, but responsibility through sustained action. In his later years, he withdrew further from public life, focusing on family and faith. He lived to the age of 86, dying in 1960, having outlived his father by over 2 decades. By then, the Rockefeller name had come to represent not just industrial power, but institutional generosity and civic responsibility. John D. Rockefeller Jr. never built an empire, never dominated an industry, and never chased fame. Instead, he inherited the consequences of unprecedented wealth and tried, imperfectly but sincerely, to use it for the public good. His life stands as a reminder that history is not only shaped by those who accumulate power, but by those who decide what to do with it once they have it. In a world still grappling with inequality, corporate responsibility, and the role of private wealth in public life, the questions Rockefeller Jr. faced remain unresolved. But his attempt to answer them helped define the modern relationship between money, morality, and society, and that may be his greatest legacy.